Alright, very good morning. I'm going to use this video to go through the answers for P5 Science SA1 2015, which essentially it's your practice paper 2. Right, your practice paper 2. So these are the practice paper 2 solutions. Right, so let's start. Which one of the following is not a trait passed on from parents to their young in a human being? Right, so we use the technique of elimination to help us solve this problem. With double eyelid, natural long hair, type of earlobe, which is over here. This is the earlobe, and then presence of dimple, and dimple usually you can find that in the face, right? So, and then double eyelid, right? So over here we can tell that natural long hair, whether or not we have long or short hair depends on our choice and preference, so we can cut them short. And so which one is not a trait? Not a trait, and then our answer here is 2. Right, 2. So that's our answer, 2. Okay, question number 2. Now this is a typical graph that we have seen in class on temperature versus time. So which part shows a change in state from gaseous to liquid? So from gas to liquid, we know that this must be talking about losing heat. And in a way, we can talk about this as condensation. Right, condensation. And so, number 1, PQ. PQ is wrong because PQ is actually our melting. We have done this many times. What about QR? QR shows an increase in temperature, which means it's gaining heat. So it's nothing to do with heat loss. So that's wrong. Now S and T shows a drop in temperature. So this is obviously heat loss. Yeah, very likely to be our answer. But we move on to TU and confirm. Right, TU, it's constant. And it's constant over a temperature, let's say about 40 degrees Celsius, which is most probably a room temperature. Right, so because this is constant, this is increase in temperature. So over here, follow my cursor, increase in temperature, decrease in temperature, constant. We know that for gas to turn into liquid, you must lose heat, and that must be this portion here, ST. Okay, so the answer is 3, and 4 is wrong, and we have here 3. Alright, if you are not very sure and you have missed, you can actually refer to the answer sheet here, 2, 3. Let's look at question number 3. In the diagram below, P, Q, R, S represent the various processes involved during a change of state. Which process involve heat loss to the surrounding? So let us analyze one by one. Okay, so R involves an increase in temperature. We know because ice needs to melt to water. And so anything with R, we cancel it because it's not heat loss, but rather it's heat gain. So that gives us with number 2 and number 4. Let us look further and let us consider S. Alright, from water to become ice, obviously water need to reduce temperature. So there's a decrease in temperature, so both are correct. Let's look at Q and P. Now, for water to turn into water vapor, we must certainly increase the amount of heat so that water will turn into water vapor. Right? That's like moving from water to boiling, increase in temperature, and Q is definitely wrong. Right? So with that, number 2 is wrong, and we have our answer here, number 4. Question number 4. The diagram below shows a way of getting water from seawater. Right, so we have seawater, we boil it, and then it becomes water vapor, condenses on the cooler surface of the metal plate, and then water is dripped into the beaker. Which of the processes occur in this method of obtaining water? As we said, we boil it, so evaporation takes place, condenses on the cooler surface of the metal sheet. Now melting certainly doesn't take place because there is no ice involved. And of course, we are talking about having a heat source here, so how can freezing be there? Freezing is also wrong, so this is wrong. Alright, you may want to cancel them in the exam, and that gives us with A and C only. Answer number 2. Now notice the power of elimination in solving questions involving MCQ. So 4 beakers PQRS, we're at question number 5, were filled with different amounts of water at different temperatures. Right, the amount of water. 4 similar blocks of ice are put into the beakers. Which beaker would you use to melt the block of ice in the shortest possible time? Alright, we want it to be the shortest possible time. Let's think, which means we want temperature to be high. Right, and that gives us eliminating this two. We have our R and S, 150 ml of water and 50 ml of water. So to melt something fast, we want to have more water so that there's more water in contact with the surface of the ice, and in that case we choose 3, R, to be the answer. So our number 5 is 3. Right. Now Tracy breathed onto a mirror and a layer of mist was formed. A minute later the mist disappeared. Which of the following statements explain why the mist had disappeared? Now what is mist? Mist, another name for mist, no, not scientific term, is also known as white clouds. Alright, and we have learned from the water cycle that white clouds are essentially water droplets. So we are saying that the water droplets disappeared, MIA. So what caused water droplets to disappear? Evaporation must have taken place. So 1 and 3 is wrong. And we mentioned that mist are actually white clouds, which are actually water droplets. So 2 is wrong. We have number 4. Now, question number 7. The diagram below shows 3 substances PQRS. Which of the following statements is or are true? Now let us look at Q and R. Q and R is very interesting. Now they are both tilted, but what do you notice about Q? You realize that this line here is actually a bit extraordinary. Right, because if you tilt water, the water level will always remain horizontal, like this. Right, over here, horizontal. But apparently Q doesn't. So what does that mean? That means that most probably Q is the ice. Right, so Q is ice. And Q is in solid state. A is definitely correct. That gives us the option 2 and 4 to consider. So let's look at B, since B is in 4 but not in 2. So let's see if B is true. Now if B is true, what does that tell us? That tells us that number 4 is correct, number 2 is certainly wrong. So P can only be in liquid state, yeah, cannot be gaseous state, right? But the question is, can P be in solid state? Certainly, right? If you tilt Q back normal and sit on the tabletop, Q will look like P. So P can only be in solid state. P can be solid. Alright, so since P can be solid, 4 is wrong. That gives us an answer number 2. Can you see how elimination works? Alright, we don't even have to know whether D is correct or not, but just by elimination, we are able to conclude that D is definitely correct. Now, moving on, question number 8. Which of the following activities is a good way to reduce? Now we talk about reduce. So basically the 3 R's are reuse, reduce, and recycle. We have to be very clear what each of the following refer to and the various example. So let's see. Reduce use of water. While having a bath, turn off the tap when I soap. That means you use less water. When you use less water, you reduce. So A is correct. Now you use water from washing vegetables to flush toilet. So you reuse the water. So B is reuse, not reduce. This is reuse. Use half a flush instead of a full flush. Use half instead. Yeah, you reduce. Use a pail of water and a cloth to wash instead of using a water hose. Yes, you are reducing. Okay, you reduce. Okay, you are not reusing. It's just that you are using less. So the whole idea of reduce is to use less, isn't it? Right, so that gives us A, C, D, answer number 3. Okay, question number 9. Which one of the following statements represent the states in the water cycle? The water vapor in the air rises. Heat from the sun causes the water in the lakes to evaporate. The water vapor cools and condenses. Clouds fall as rain. Tiny droplets gather to form clouds. Alright, just look at D and E first. Which one should come first? Certainly, we need to have forming clouds first, formation of clouds, then it will fall as rain, right? So E must come before D. Alright, E must come before D. So knowing that, we know that number 4 is certainly wrong. E must come before D, number 2 is wrong. That gives us number 1 and 3 to choose from. So let's see what is the starting. Must be heat from the sun causes water to evaporate. Or let's look at into what? Into water vapor. The water vapor rises, so that's this. Number 1. Yeah, so E cannot be here because before water vapor you cannot have clouds. Right, makes sense, right? So that gives us answer number 1. On question number 10. The rate of evaporation of a glass of soy milk is the highest when you want rate of evaporation. So we know there are 3 factors. Let's revise. Factor number 1, increase in temperature. Factor number 2, increase in the exposed surface area. And number 3, increase in the amount of wind. Alright, so when the glass is heated, yeah, possible. When the soy milk is cold, wrong, because we want increase in temperature. When it's covered with a lid, that means there's less wind, no. Exposed is small, cannot be small, we want it to be big. So answer is number 1. Alright. Okay, with that we stop here at question number 10. Let's continue in the next video on question number 11. Do check back and relook at your explanation or rather your answers, and happy learning.